Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Fresh Natural Live. We are here from Houston, and as usual, we have a great show for you tonight. It is Monday, June 6, 2022, and tonight we're going to talk about how to improve your circulation. Of course, we all know that eating a healthy diet and exercise, those things work, but there's some technology that can also help, and we actually are implementing that technology. Some exciting information for you, so get your pen and pencil ready. It's going to be a great show as usual. So I'll see you shortly as we get started right now. Okay, welcome back. As I said, we're going to talk about how to improve your circulation. Circulation, as you know, is very important for all functions of the body, the brain, of course, the heart kicks it off, but the heart itself needs its own circulation. It's called the coronary arteries that feeds blood to itself, which is important for optimal heart function. But the kidneys, your bones, your joints, nerve condition, people with neuropathy, have neuropathy due to poor circulation to the nerves. That's very common in diabetics. Poor circulation to the joints is associated with arthritis and poor joint healing and joint degeneration. So circulation is very, very important. We often think about circulation from the standpoint of large blood vessels. If you see a cardiologist like myself or a vascular specialist like a vascular surgeon, we'll do procedures like angiograms where we take pictures of arteries under fluoroscopy, under radiation or x-ray, and we get a picture of whether these arteries are blocked, quote unquote, or narrowed or stenosed, as we like to say. However, this is only part of the picture, and today we're going to talk about other aspects of circulation that's very, very important. But before we get to that, I want all of you to hit the thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up right away. Give us a like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. And of course, share this very important information with friends and loved ones or anyone who you think may benefit from it. But before we go on, I'm going to invite my friend and colleague, Esosa Edosawam, our resident nutritionist. Esosa, how are you today? Welcome. Welcome.
Good. How are you?
It's making a grand appearance. And we're going to be talking about how to improve your circulation. And I'm going to put a lot of emphasis on some technology called electromagnetic technology, so electromagnetic frequency technology. And there are a number of different devices out there. There's one particular device that's goes under the trade name Beamer, which we use, we'll start using. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off sharing some information on a study that I pulled from the medical literature. A lot of the science is done in Germany, so it's not a lot of data here in the United States. There are not a lot of clinicians using this. We certainly don't use it in the allopathic medical treatment arena. There are lots of patients that I see whom I see can benefit from it. In fact, many patients may actually have limb salvage because oftentimes what you have is you have diabetics or individuals with extreme severe vascular problems. And of course, we know that the large vessels are compromised, but also the microcirculation is compromised as well. And they can benefit from treatments such as infrared sonotherapy, which improves vascular circulation, improves nitric oxide production, which has an effect on the large vessels. But there's a certain technology which uses electromagnetic frequency, which enhances function at the microvascular levels. This is the arterioles and venules. So these are the very tiny blood vessels where you have the same inner lining that's called the endothelium, which goes in these blood vessels, but these blood vessels are just upstream from the capillaries, or in the case of venules, downstream from the capillaries. And the capillaries are very tiny fenestrated blood vessels, and that's where all the business occurs. So capillaries have fenestrations where oxygen and water is transmitted across, and oxygen is transmitted across, and that's where nutrients are transmitted. So this is where your body is nourished, and also this is where waste is removed from the body and then delivered back and circulate out for elimination. And so it's at this level of circulation compromise is where you have a lot of disease states, and this technology has been shown to benefit right at this level. So we're going to actually show you first we'll go through some scientific evidence, and I have some videos that's going to actually show you the actual effects of this technology, and when we show you the actual blood flow. And I'll have another video that gives kind of an overview of how this works. Will help summarize this. So let's just go to my presentation, how to improve your circulation using electromagnetic technology. There's a study done, and this is out of Germany, where they took a group of men. The average age was around 50, and there were 24 men total. And there were 12 that were, and these men, the setting was where they were in a rehab facility. Now, they didn't give a lot of details in terms of comorbidities of the like. They gave the age and the like, but basically they were in the physical rehab setting. And so they were exposed to the general treatment of physical conditioning of individuals exposed to chronic stress and infection. So they were probably individuals who were in a rehab facility, may have been individuals who had been hospitalized, they may have had a chronic illness that they were recovering from. Here in the United States, we have similar facilities called long-term acute care hospitals, where, let's say you're admitted to a hospital, you have a pneumonia, a heart attack, or whatever, and you've been bedridden, and then you go to a rehab hospital or long-term acute care hospital where you get long-term rehab. And the typical rehab in most of these places where you get physical therapy, so it's basic physical conditioning, and here they call it counseling for health conscious lifestyle. So I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I doubt they had them on raw vegan detoxes. but be that as it may, this was the baseline setting for the patients in this setting. So they were divided in two equal groups. There was a control group, and the control group received the physical conditioning without the intervention. So the intervention they described here is the physical stimulation. So they did not get the electromagnetic frequency therapy. The Verum group, which was the treatment group, they received the baseline physical therapy, but they did get the electromagnetic frequency therapy. So two groups, one getting the regular therapy, but no extra electromagnetic stimulation, and the other group received the regular physical therapy and did get the electromagnetic stimulation. I'll describe that in a minute. And actually the video that I'm going to play later is going to give you a nice general description of how the therapy works. And they use the Beamer Plus device, which is the commercial device that we'll be talking about. There are other pulse electromagnetic frequency therapy devices that have different mechanisms, and some are rated better than others. The Beamer therapy has the most data, and so we decided to talk about it. So application of complementary therapy, essentially what they did is they did measurements. So they took the complementary therapy, or the Beamer therapy, was applied twice a day for 12 minutes each, and they were about 2 to 3 hours apart. So the patient would go in and get a Beamer therapy at one point, and 2 or 3 hours later get another 12-minute Beamer therapy. And we'll talk about what that therapy is. Essentially, they lay on a mat, and the electromagnetic frequency is delivered through their bodies through this mat that's connected to a device, the Beamer device. The time period, so what they did is they measured the parameters that we're going to talk about: blood flow, immune function, vasomotor activity. They measured these things, at day 0, day 5, day 15, day 10, day 15, day 20, and day 25. And so they looked at, and also day 30. And so they compared the change in function measurements over this time period. I'm going to take a quick break here, and I want you, while I take a break, I want you to give a thumbs up, and also give us a nice like and share this with anyone while we invite Dr. Ford Atkins here. Dr. Atkins, how are you doing today? I think you're on mute still. I think, Dr. Atkins, you're on mute. Dr. Atkins, you're on mute. I don't know if you can hear me. You're on mute. Whoops.
I know I'm having technical issues here, so.
Oh, okay. Oh, Utah. Oh, my goodness. Yeah,
okay. So, no, just fighting the internet demons this evening, but I'm here.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. I thought your computer had monkeypox or something, but anyway. So the vascular measurement takes. So what did they measure over time? So this is a little bit of a complex slide, but so the characteristics were taken. Number one, they looked at determination of time, distance, function, arterial vessel wall oscillation. So basically, they looked at vasomotor. So how much did these vessels oscillate? And that's important because we think of blood vessels as pipes that allow flow to go through. And that's a reasonable analogy, with the exception of the fact that pipes, as we know them inside building structures, do not dilate and constrict. And vasomotor activity is an important activity for blood vessels throughout the vascular tree, because if you have, for instance, let's say you're in a car accident and you have an injury to a leg, maybe you have a big cut or laceration, you're bleeding, the body will know to constrict blood flow to that section of the body. It'll constrict blood flow to the leg and shunt it elsewhere. And so vasomotor activity is important because the body will know to shunt blood from areas where there's blood loss to areas where there's no blood loss. Also, if your body is in shock, your volume depleted, it will systemically shunt blood flow to areas that are less important and shunt it to areas that are most important. So that's certainly one aspect of vasomotor, the ability of blood vessels to dilate, constrict, in terms of shifting circulation preferentially to areas that are most important. However, this vasomotor or vascular function approach is also important from the standpoint of helping circulation flow. And then the video is going to explain this very well. But the circulation is greatly generated by the heart pumping. We all know that the heart pumps. You have systole and diastole, and the heart contracts, and that pulsatile pressure that's stimulated is transmitted throughout the vascular tree. However, the blood vessel length is about 75,000 miles long, so it's a very long trip that you circulate your blood goes through. And so when it gets to the tiny blood vessels, you've gone through lots of resistance. And so vasomotor activity at the vascular level, at the arterioles, and even the venules is very important in terms of pushing blood through. So vasomotor activity is what's measured here. Again, this is how the blood vessels are pumping, the arterioles are pumping themselves and helping the transmission of flow. They also measure particle flow in venules, or the veins, the tiny veins. So blood flow in the veins was measured. They looked at the number of capillaries. They call them nodes. These nodes are capillaries. So they looked at the number of capillary beds that were perfused. And they measured in terms of volume of capillary beds. So those are 3 vascular measurements that were taken. They also looked at metabolic measurements, such as venular oxygen saturation. So they looked at the amount of saturation of blood, of the hemoglobin inside the arteries, the afferent arterioles, and the efferent venules. So they looked at the saturation of blood, or the hemoglobin going into the capillary bed and coming out of the capillary bed. And then they looked at a couple of things that was quite interesting, that I thought was interesting. They looked at the transmigrated white blood cells, and we'll show you some images of this. They showed where how many white blood cells were adherent to veins before and after this treatment. So this is important because white blood cell adherence to the vein, meaning that how many white blood cells stick to the veins, correlate with the number of white blood cells that goes through the veins and into the tissue to treat infection. And so you want to see a big flow of migration, and then subsequent turn on off of migration once whatever infection or inflammatory process is treated or addressed. And then ICAM, which is an adhesion molecule, it's thought of as one of these inflammatory mediators. It was also ICAM, or adhesion molecule concentration, was also measured. Again, it showed a big spike in the fall, as we're going to look at in just a minute. So these were the 6 basic parameters that were looked at as a result of these, 52 groups of 12 men who went through this treatment. So what did they find? Well, one thing I'm going to show you, now this is a busy slide. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but it's worth talking about, even though this is technology beyond what I normally deal with on a regular basis. But what you're dealing with here is a schematic that shows the use of laser Doppler. So basically, Doppler looks at echoes of flow. So basically, if you ever been to the Grand Canyon or wherever, you shout out and you hear your voice, stutters, that's the echo of your voice. And so this echo technology, or Doppler rather, technology is used in various aspects of medicine. We use it in ultrasound a lot. For instance, echocardiograms use Doppler technology, but you can also use laser Doppler technology, where laser light penetrates the skin, and you can look at differentials of Doppler with laser technology. So this allows them to look at subcutaneous tissues such as blood vessels. And so laser Doppler therapy was looked at here. You have an external illuminator. You have various measuring devices that sends image data into PC, and it gives out data related to flowmetry, body core temperature, RR, systolic and diastolic mean pressure. This helps with vasomotor activity, ECG respiratory frequencies. All this kind of data is captured and correlated so that you can look at the timing of the physiological activity that's happening. And then you have laser Doppler, as I said before, that looks at microflow, RBC velocity. There's white light spectroscopy, which looks at oxygen saturation, as well as relative hematocrit data. So basically, laser technology, white light spectroscopy is used to penetrate the skin, and it sends back data into a computer analysis system that then gives you all this information. So I wanted to go through that complexity to show you how they're actually capturing this data in the study. So what do we see here? We're looking at the microcirculation. You see the dark part looks at blood vessels here, and this is a before. So this is day 0. And notice how you see the blood vessels in the tiny branches. There's a tiny branch here, tiny branch there. And by the way, I didn't put this detail here, but what they did also is they chose a specific part of the body. So they looked at the part of the abdomen and in the epigastric region, just a little bit, as they call caudal, down to the bottom. So it's sort of between the right upper, right lower quadrant area. I would even say right upper quadrant, the lower aspect of the right upper quadrant of the abdomen is where they measured this. So that's this part of the skin they penetrated and look and make these vascular tissue measurements. And so they looked at that same spot in every patient every time. So it's the same location. So you're looking at the same vascular bed at 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 days. So what we see here at day 0, you see all these tiny blood vessels, and you notice how, look at this tiny blood vessel here, it has a little bump, and it's the same little blood vessel here, okay? And so here, so you're in the same spot. But if you start to look closely, look at this spot right here, and notice how clear that looks, and then look over here and notice that some other tiny vessels are filling in. So for instance, right under here, between this one and this one, there's nothing. Between this one and this one, look here, you got blood vessels here, little branches there going here. Notice how you get this little branch here going here, okay? And it's all throughout here. Look between these two vessels, you see a little branch here and a little branch here. You don't see that there. So what you see here is an increase in vascular bed. So the microvascular region on this is day 25 in section B, showed a much richer flow of vasculature. More blood vessels were seen. You can look in this little area here and compare it to this area here, much more bright. Look at there, this branch here. You see there's no branch there. Now it's there. So it's also, so essentially it's a process of angiogenesis, if you will, or the growth or development of new blood vessels that's seen after this treatment. So we go on here. Now this is at 0, and then this is on day 20. Now this is the vein. So from this area to this area is the lumen of a vein. And down here, this area is the lumen of this area is the lumen of an artery. So you have the vein here and the artery there. Vein here, artery there. Now on day 0, notice there's nothing in here. You see these little striations there. Look on day 20. See here? These are white blood cells, these little circular globular looking things, and they're adhering to the wall of this vein. Right there, right there, right there. Here, look at this one's going across. See that one? This one hasn't adhered yet. You may see this may be one going across. That's the same as there. But the point is that you see an increased adherence and migration of these white blood cells inside the veins. What does that mean? That means that you have an increased flow of white cells. Now, notice this is around treatment day 20. And what they notice, and we're going to look at some graphs that depicts this, that you had an initial increase in adherence of white blood cells, and then it dropped off. And so, and I'll explain that in a minute. So here again, the treatment is associated with increased adherence of white blood cells. And so we look at the measurements. So this is the data. So the clear boxes are the control, and the shaded or hash boxes are the verum or the treated group, the group treated with the electromagnetic frequency. Excuse me. So from day 0 to 5, so 0 starts off at 0. So here's the increase in terms of, now this box here represents the spontaneous arterial vasomotor. So this is the contraction. So this is how much vasomotor activity you had. And you had a significant increase from 0 to 5, day 5 of the treatment group. Now notice that the control group had improvement too. Now these guys were getting the regular physical therapy and also, a lifestyle, education. So from day 0 to day 5, there was a significant increase from 5 to 10, an increase in 10 to 15, an increase. There seemed to be a plateau beyond day 15, maybe an increase from 15 to 20, probably not statistically significant, but you probably had the biggest statistical significant difference from 5 to 20. If you look at these error bars, you see there's a lot of overlap there. But the error bar here definitely doesn't overlap with this. So from day 5 to 20, there's an increase, and then you plateau beyond that. That's with the control. However, with the EMF stimulation, you had a significant increase from 0 to 5, of course, but then also that significant increase from 5 to 10 days. And from 10 to 15 days was probably a trend, and so you began to plateau. But the increase was much greater in the electromagnetic treated group. So more vasomotor activity is what we're seeing here. How about the flow in the veins? So this is, if you look on the veins, it's outside the capillaries. So you got the arteries on one side and the veins on this side. So the arteries push it through, then it goes through the capillaries, and then you get the veins over here. And so venous flow was much increased greatly. Again, you had some improved flow here, but again, it wasn't nearly as much as you got in the treated group. So again, flow through the veins, flow through the from the arteries to the capillaries of veins. So increased vasomotor, arterial vasomotor activity. So the arteries are pumping more, That's what's showed here. And then the flow in the veins is greater. That's what's shown here. Very, very impressive changes in that period of time. Now, here's you showing the number of blood perfused nodes. They call them nodes. These are capillary beds. So again, you have an increase in the perfusion or flow through the capillary beds. And remember, the capillary beds is where the activity happens. This is where oxygen and nutrients are taken to the tissue. So you really need to have good flow through the capillaries. And then, of course, have to have good flow out of the capillaries. So we show good vasomotor activity of arteries pushing blood into the capillaries. We are showing here good flow through the capillaries, increased flow in the capillary beds. And then the previous graph, I'm going to go back up. This one shows good flow outside of the capillaries or coming from the capillaries. Vasomotor activity into the capillaries, good flow through the capillaries, venous flow out of the capillaries. So we're flushing and flowing the capillary beds very well. And this is important, of course, is where tissue gets nourished. So if you have poor flow through the capillary beds, poor flow through these microvascular systems, then nerves are not getting nourished, muscle not getting nourished, cartilage tissue is not getting nourished. So people with arthritis, this inflammation, this treatment is not helping. So if you get a chronic infection, it's not going to be adequately treated because flow to this area is going to be compromised. This area can work against that. This treatment can work against that. Now, how about the number of migrating white blood cells? Remember the image I showed you here? I showed you increased white blood cells shown here in the vein compared to here at baseline. So they actually measured and quantified that. And the baseline treatment, and these are the clear box, the one you compare to see here, 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 and here. Notice that it was a modest increase, but the increase continued. Okay, that's an important thing to keep a note of. Notice on the treatment section, you had a big increase of this migration white cells, and then even a bigger on day 10. And then on day 15, it dropped off 20, and then it became negative on day 30. Now, you say, well, wait a minute, why didn't it keep going up? Well, the purpose of the immune system is to have a big initial surge. So let's say you have an infection, or you have an infection or some other migration or invasion, if you will, of something foreign, virus, bacteria, etc. The immune system is alerted. The cells go out and they attack. There should be a burst of activity early on. It should take care of the migration, or take care of the invasion, and then turn itself off. And so you see here a burst of inflammatory activity, and then it turns itself off. The turning off is important because if you have a burst of activity, it continues to go up, then the body goes into sepsis. It goes into a cytokine storm, and that's how people die. You die not because of just the infection, because the body's going to fight against the infection. But if the body fights against the infection in an uncontrolled, erratic manner, then what's going to happen is that the body is not only going to be fighting against foreign agents, but it's also going to be fighting against itself. So it's going to be destroying native tissue. So that's when you get sick. ARDS in the case of lung infections, kidney failure, blood clot formation, etc. So you want this process to be able to turn off, and you see that happening here. Here you have oxygen saturation measurement. So venular oxygen saturation measurement. If you see in the control group, yes, it goes up, but very slowly and very modestly compared to in the treatment group. Very brisk increase in oxygen saturation, and it improves over 30 days. This oxygen saturation, the venular level, which means that the tissue is well oxygenated going into the capillary bed. ICAM, which is a inflammatory mediator molecule, shows a burst of increased activity here, and it drops off in a similar fashion as the white blood cells do. So again, this is the immune system acting here, and this is oxygenation of tissue that's acting there, which is very important. So I'm going to stop there with this presentation. I have a couple of videos to show you, but what I'm going to do before I go to those videos, I'm going to ask you again, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, and share this information. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to show you some videos that's going to summarize this for you quite well. So stay tuned for just a minute. Give us a thumbs up while we go to a break.